Okay. Right, a little later with the countdown. We're about a minute late with the countdown. We usually have about a 3-minute countdown, but we're kind of like settling into it. Maybe we're all tired and distraught from our period of national mourning. Who knows? Yeah, I keep getting messages and DMs asking if I'm okay. What with the loss of our beloved monarch? It is not affecting me whatsoever, apart from the fact that I have not got Monday off. So I'm still working tomorrow. Apparently it's time and a half for us because we are working. But no, I think there's going to be like a 2-minute silence at some point at midday. I'm not going to be in the warehouse at midday, so it's not going to affect me. So basically, no, I'm not affected at all. But, you know, that's the way things are. But no, thank you very much indeed for all the messages. But no, I am not distraught in that regard. I mean, I do have one or two things happening, burbling along in the background, including the health of several of my family members. But these are things that kind of try us, and you get on with it, I suppose. But thank you very much indeed for joining us. We've got one or two people joining us already. We can see in the top corner. Welcome along. As always, the best way to make sure that you are watching along live each and every Sunday is by hitting the notifications, hitting the like, and you can find out exactly what we're up to each and every week. And of course, you can join us on all our socials and follow along in that regard. But wherever you're watching and wherever you're watching from, jump in on the comments, let us know, because we'd love to find out where you're watching from. 2 great guests today. I know it said 3, but we have a reason for the other one. All in all, I think it's just going to be a nice, relaxed show today. Certainly a damn sight less stressful than last week. Let's do this, shall we? Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Len Sultana, and each and every Sunday we talk Comic-Cons, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense you get to enjoy at such show. I have a really large cup of tea because today, obviously this week's been incredibly stressful for a whole bunch of reasons, but I needed a large cup of tea. And not only that, but I've been bullied online. I've been cyberbullied, everybody. I know, it's horrific to hear. But I have, in fact, been bullied online. Shelley Bond has been disparaging my choice of tea because I have been up to now been drinking PG tips. But no, in Shelley's honor, I'm on Tetley tea today. Or is it Yorkshire tea that she likes? It's one of the two. But either way, hopefully you've got your beverage to hand. And welcome along to Talkin Con. I'm going to take a slurp. So yes, welcome along to Talkin Con. It's going to be a slightly more relaxed show today because we've got no real agenda as such. I know that it's been a bit of a stressful week for a number of reasons for a whole bunch of people, so we're just going to kind of dive into it. I mean, last week we had 2 shows. Hopefully you caught those. Thank you very much indeed to our guests for joining us because we had a great chat about Thunderchild. Spoke to Rob Jones about the creation of that particular project, which should be coming to its close tomorrow. I know we've got Shelley Bond, who's actually watching. Hello there, Shelley. And it is PG tips that she likes. Oh, no, it's PG that she's disparaging. No, I'm on Tetley today. No, she... thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I just realised what I'm wearing. Yes, hi, Shelley. Yes, Black Crown represent. Absolutely. But no, yes, the Kickstarter, which we were talking with a bit last week, was very, very cool. And it was great to talk about that. And it comes to a close tomorrow. So if you are still wanting to take part in that particular Kickstarter, now's the time to jump on. Search for Thunderchild on Kickstarter. And then we got ourselves the great chat as well with Gustavo Vargas, who sent me through the latest. We were talking about Volume 3 and the latest version, or the latest issue of his self-created Peruvian cyberpunk series, and he sent it through. So I've been reading that this week. That's been really, really good. I have also been doing a lot of comic reading today because I went and dropped something like 130 to 140 pounds on comics yesterday. So no, I've been representing. I've been getting my comic head on. Barbaric, yeah. I've been. What else I've been getting? One Dark Knight 3, which I haven't read yet, which it's good to have that, and Tales of the Human Target, which I've really been getting into. This is like a little drop-in issue, which is kind of like sort of folding into the main run of those. Excellent. If you're reading comics, let us know what you're reading at the moment. Jump into the comments and let us know what you're up to. We've got ourselves some people joining us already. Into the Blue Mister. Afternoon all from sunny Wales. Welcome along. Veronica Nunes. Hello, everyone. I'm early for a brunch, so I'm sitting in the car. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time and effort and joining us. Hola, Leonard and Peeps. Hello there, Toby. Michael P is joining us. Good morning, all. Also, Toby's asking, did the thing to you know who got there? Yes, Leanne did receive her box, and she posted online. If you look on your Twitter account, I actually tagged you into a couple as well. Very, very happy that she got a little bit of a care package we put together for Leanne. Yeah, that arrived from San Diego Comic Con. We gathered all sorts of bits and pieces. She was very, very happy indeed to receive that. Yes, we have ourselves our neighbors. Hola from San Diego. And Shelley is, PG is God. I can't win, can I? And we've got PG, we've got Tetley, we've got Yorkshire Tea in the house, we've got Twinings, Wittards, we've got tea galore in this house, and I just went for the nearest one. There you go, that's the one I got. Let's find out exactly who we've got in the room and find out what they're drinking with us. We have actually a black screen with us because we've got somebody who is having one or two issues with his camera, but it's okay. We're hearing his dulcet tones, and hopefully you'll be up for that. Jon Espanza is joining us. Hello there, John. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing out there in England?
Not well, no, doing okay. We're doing all right. And we have ourselves Joel Meadows, editor-in-chief of Tripwire Magazine. Hello there, Joel. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, although the sky seems to be darkening in the south. It looks like it's about to bucket down.
Yes, it does seem to be reflective of the mood. I mean, certainly down in London as well, as we get closer and closer to said funeral arrangements. Yeah, we've got the grey skies coming over. But hopefully it holds off, especially for those that are in the queue. I've been talking about this because we made the gag online about that if you are lining up for 14 hours in the funeral or to see the Queen laying in rest at Westminster Abbey, then you're doing San Diego Comic Con training. The thing about that is, I'm going to roll back on this. I was thinking about this today. If you're going to San Diego Comic Con, you're queuing up for Hall H, you get the chance to sleep a bit and sort of like camp out for the night. Not with this line. It's constantly rolling. You are in that line for 14 hours on your feet and awake, and you're having to invest that waking time. It's hardcore. So no, if you have been doing that, fair play to you. Yes, I mean, what's been the mood in the capital at the moment? Is it all grey skies and gloom at the moment?
Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I admit I haven't gone down. I did think about it, but I admit I didn't in the end. So I know that they've got sort of drinks and biscuits and they have loos and things. If people don't feel great, then they can take them to one side. So it does. I was going to say it's like San Diego, except you're not treated like cattle or.
Yes, I was about to also say that I think I mean, you could also make a comment about the homeless situation in the capital, as with all major metropolitan cities. I put everyone who is homeless should have joined themselves in the queue because, like I say, they're getting blankets.
Yeah, and you're not wrong.
They should have. Yeah, it's interesting how they will. The authorities will manage to rustle up the organisation to sort out people on the streets of London if they are there for 14, 15 hours. But for those there on a slightly more longer basis, that they don't really kind of rustle up that kind of organisation. That's when we get into politics, and we'll leave that alone. We'll leave that alone. But no, welcome along. So, John, I mean, what's been the kind of take on all of this nonsense in the US? I mean, is it because over here in the UK, believe me, it's wall to wall. We are just seeing it's just nothing. But we've been having this for a week and a half now. What's been kind of like the vibe in the US over the whole Queen Elizabeth passing?
You know, it's kind of been the same. I think people are just, I don't want to sound morbid here, but I think people are just so happy to hear something that doesn't involve our own politics that they'll literally watch anything at this point.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that makes all the sense in the world. I'm okay with that. I mean, considering that every time that I do open up Twitter, it is a case of seeing. I've managed. I mean, I know people talk about Twitter being a bit of a hellscape. I've managed to really curate my Twitter feed, so it's 50, 60, 70% comics, and then you get that 30%. At the end of the day, people are wanting to talk about the political situation. So no, we get the headlines over here as well about what's happening in the US and keeping an eye on that. But there we go. For the next 45 minutes or so, let's just talk comics and Comic Cons and stuff. Quickly to introduce each other, let's kind of dive into that and have a little bit of an introduction, because I know John from Twitter, and it's thank you so much indeed for joining us on the show today, because the reason I wanted to invite you on, and we were going to be joined by Josh Cruz as well, is because you are very much somebody who is active on social media. You very much are a lover of not only the craft of creating comics and cartoons, but just the whole the infrastructure and the community of comics. And that's the reason why I wanted to invite you on today. But for those who don't know who you are, John, if you could introduce yourself as though you were at a dinner party and no one knew who you were. Who are you, Jon Espanza?
Well, I am Jon Espanza. I am the cartoonist behind such comics as Mike and Mindy, Mushrooms, and more currently, Bubble Fox. I'm also a stagehand. I just celebrated my 19th year of being a worker who sets up rock concerts and plays and conventions like Comic Con every year. And I graduated college with a degree in film and television. I've even worked on a couple of TV shows before. Nothing particularly spectacular, but it's not a bad thing to have on my resume.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Bubble Fox, it's available on the old Amazons if anyone wants to give that a go. I mean, I'm going to share some of your work. While we can't necessarily see you on screen, at least we can show you show people what some of your work is. It's like I say, I'm a big fan of the work that you do. It's really kind of it's fun. It's got a real dynamic vibe to it. It's kind of like a vibe where it doesn't want to stay stagnant. It wants to keep moving, and it's got a real energy to it. And I love that about your work. So there you go. Shelley Bond is asking, what college?
I went to San Diego State University, which is one of the top film and TV schools in the country. Of course, that was also a long time ago. I'm 13 years since I graduated, so bit old now.
No, not at all. Not at all. So yeah, excellent stuff. I mean, it's great to have you along, and like I say, it's as a San Diegan as well. It's good to have you certainly give us a bit of that perspective as well on the palaver that we had back in July and all of that noise. But let's also introduce Joel Meadows. Hello there, Joel. For those who don't know you, and I know that we're going to be letting you go in about 5-10 minutes, so we'll make it quick. People who don't know you, introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Joel Meadows. I'm editor-in-chief of Tripwire, which started life as a print magazine, and then we switched to the web in 2015, and then back to print in 2020, and we're also on the web as well. So we've covered comics, film, and TV for 30 years. And in fact, part of the reason why I'm on is to talk about our 30th anniversary book.
Absolutely. I mean, if you'd like to dive into that, because this is something that you're running on Zoop. which is a platform that, if you're kind of comics adjacent, you've been hearing a lot more about. Explain what Zoop is and why that is proving to be an appealing platform for those that are wanting to get stuff out there.
Well, basically, we've used Kickstarter, we've used Indiegogo in the past, but Zoop is purely comics. And there was the Wintermen Artist Edition that Scott Dunby put together with John Paul Leon's beautiful art. And there was the Ukraine charity comic, which he also did. And they seem to have done some really great work over the last, I guess it must be about a year now. And I thought we'd try something a bit different. And the guys at Zoop have been fantastic. Eric and Jordan, they've given us guidance. And, you know, unlike Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and I'm not criticizing them because obviously they're huge platforms and they're run in a slightly different way. But with Zoop, you actually get guidance from the people who run the company, and it's been fantastic. And, you know, I'd like to kind of shout out to them and say they've been really helpful.
Cool. The book itself, I mean, what can you talk about? I mean, it's 30 years of Tripwire. Why is it important for you to still be in print in 2022?
Because I've always loved print, you know, as well as running Tripwire. I've worked as a journalist, as an editor, and as a sub-editor. And I like having a physical object in my hand. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the web. The web is fantastic. You know, you make a mistake, you get somebody's name wrong. In 5 minutes, you can correct it. But there's something about holding something physically in your hands, which is hard to beat. So the paperback is coming out from Heavy Metal, and then the hardcover is being done through Zoop, and the hardcover is going to be very, very nice. It's got a dust jacket. We're going to have an exclusive David Mack piece of art, not exclusive to well, exclusive to the hardback. It's not exclusive as such, but if people get the paperback, they won't get the David Mack art. But I like having a physical object. You know, we still do the print magazine. There's another one coming out in November. You know, there's something about the smell of a fresh book or a fresh magazine, you know, when the books get delivered, when the boxes, you know, come in, that's impossible to beat. And that's what I love. And so this coming Thursday, I get to see the paperback, which is really, really exciting. And I love print. I've always loved it. And I think that things like crowdfunding platforms have given myself and loads of other, you know, indie cartoonists and comic guys a way of actually monetizing and being able to keep print out there, you know, in a way that it was struggling for a bit. I mean, obviously you've still got things like Diamond, and you've also got, you know, some other ways, but crowdfunding is brilliant for print publications, you know, whether it's comics or magazines or books or graphic novels. And I think, you know, Zoop's been brilliant for us.
Cool. I mean, I'm curious as to what you felt you needed to bring to a 30th anniversary book, which, like you say, it's a landmark book. What did you want to bring different to, say, your quarterly issues, rather than just a hardback cover? What was something that made a 30th? What were the articles that were going in that were making the cut for a 30th anniversary issue?
Well, I guess we wanted to be feel more like a book than a magazine, and so the journalism that was in there had to feel more kind of overarching and like a more general look back. So one of the articles is 30 years of Image, because, you know, this year is also the anniversary of Image, and we did a piece about the rise and fall of Vertigo. Look at DC's, you know, now defunct imprint, and we wanted to try and put stuff out there that was a bit more timeless. So I guess that was it, to make it feel more like a book. I mean, even down to the design, like, for example, like the magazine that you mentioned, we might have 8 or 9 different fonts throughout the magazine. But with a book, I wanted to really strip it back and say, okay, this should be a much simpler affair, which is why there's one font for headlines and one font basically for the body and for pull quotes and things. I wanted to simplify it and make it feel more like a book.
So
and there's a hell of a lot of content in there.
A consistent read, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Any highlights for yourself about the project, or any articles that really stand out? I mean, I'll be showing at the moment the 30 graphic novels you should read. We've got the Scott Braden's Lost Tales article you've got as well. Some great photos and artwork that you've gathered over the years. Is there any bits and pieces that certainly stand out for yourself?
Well, I mean, I like to think it's kind of all killer, no filler, as they like to say. But the thing that I'm most proud of, in a way, is the 3rd Sherlock Holmes strip, which is debuting in the hardback book. So we've had 2 of those in the last 2 print mags, and this is the 3rd strip. And I think they come from various So there's 22 pages of Sherlock Holmes in there, and 8 pages have never been seen before. So I'm very proud of that. I like to think that that series has really developed, you know, because I sat in it for 20. It's taken 20 years, as I explained in the article in the book. It's taken 20 years of gestation, and we tried to get a publisher 20 years ago, and it didn't quite happen. But I think every article and every piece of art, I think it really brings something to the book, and I'm very proud. And I don't want to single out any of the pieces, because I think they're all extremely good. I think we've got some really good quality journalism in there. We've got my colleague Andy Coleman did a thing about 30 years of comic book movies. I wrote a piece about Marvel Studios, how it's become a dominant form in the last 30 years in terms of popular culture. I said we looked back at Image, we looked back at Vertigo. We've just got a really strong lineup. We've got 3 introductions, one by myself, one by Marty Grossi, who works for Diamond, and one by Dirk Wood, who works for Image. And I'm very chuffed with it. I'm very proud of it. I think it was intended to be the best thing we've ever put out, and I think that hopefully we've achieved that.
That's cool. I mean, you've got Into the Blue Mister saying, I think most comic book fans prefer physical copies rather than digital. And I don't want to leave Jon kind of like sitting voiceless in the background. So I'm going to let him jump in as well. I mean, do you, certainly 2 things. Number one, I mean, are you a physical comics reader, or are you digital? Because obviously you have your online stuff as well, and your online cartoons. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer having stuff in your hand and so like something to hold on to, or are you do you embrace the digital as well?
Call me the Man in Black. But yes,
sorry?
Man in Black.
The Man in Black.
This is going to sound weird coming from a web cartoonist, but I prefer physical. That's what I grew up on. Mad Magazine was the first comics I ever got, and the first stuff I ever really paid attention to. And there's just, as a creator, there's a real source of pride to hold the book in your hand and look back at it and go, good God, I made this. Yeah. And as a fan, it's great to be able to thumb through the pages. I don't have to fire up my phone or my computer to look at a book. It doesn't hurt my eyes if I stare at a book for 12 hours on end, Just I understand that digital's cheaper, and that's what a lot of people are going to go to in the grand scheme of things. But also, like, some devices just don't work well for comics. Like, there have been so many apps that have tried to make comics work on phones, and God bless them for trying. I tip my hat to them. But a phone is just too small. I think the best device, if you have to look at a book or if you have to use a digital device for reading comics and whatnot, your best bet's going to be either a laptop, a desktop, or a tablet. And I love having a book in my hands. I love the fact that when I was just at Comic-Con, so many of my friends who just got big deals, their books were there. And I could tell the guy, hey, this is one of my homies. I bought one of his books.
No, it makes sense. And certainly when it comes to comic book journalism, we'll quickly ask you that question, Jon. I mean, do you follow much in the way of comic book journalism, or is it so much kind of like in the background, or you kind of get your news maybe from social media and Twitter? Where do you stand on efforts like Joel's and Tripwire?
A lot of it is mostly through social media, and it's not because I don't believe in reading the journals or whatnot. It's mostly because I just don't have time.
Yeah.
When you're, it's amazing. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you're making comics full time and have a full time job on the side of that, because web cartooning doesn't make a whole lot of money. And as I've come to learn since I became a real cartoonist, putting out for Marvel and DC doesn't make you a millionaire either. It makes your publisher a lot of money, but it sure doesn't make the artist a whole lot.
No.
And, there's only so many hours in the day, but I respect the media who go out and cover comics and try to be fair and balanced about it. But if it's just some troll online going, this sucks, no, I don't give them any attention.
It's pretty easy, certainly on Twitter. You kind of get a real sense of who's delivering quality stuff, and that's the reason why I got into Tripwire in the first place back in the day, because I knew that they were Joel was putting together stuff of some real class and distinction. You've got a couple of questions that are coming from Shelley, by the way, Joel. So we'll throw these real quickly.
Yeah, of course, please.
The questions are: what are the specs? How many pages? What size?
Okay, the paperback is is the weird DC Black Label size, which is I can't remember the exact. It's 224 pages. So yeah, and the hardback is slightly smaller. It's going to have a dust jacket, so it's pretty packed. It is predominantly color, but it's got some grayscale pages, as you saw. Some of the photographs, like the Alan Moore photo, is black and white. The one of Liam. So we want to mix it up, and it's going to be quite a nice paper stock as well. Because I want, certainly with the hardback, I want people to feel like they're getting value for what they're putting down. Because the hardcover it's not a cheap book. It's not going to look like a cheap book. I've taken a lot of care and consideration designing this.
Cool.
But it's the biggest book we've ever physically put together ourselves.
Cool. Is it a greatest hits? I mean, is it a compilation of previous artwork, previous work, or is it mostly original articles that you put together?
It's a mix. So there's the Vertigo anniversary piece, the Vertigo look back, which is brand new. The Image thing, which is brand new. The Marvel movies thing, which is brand new. The comic book movies thing is a revised version of a thing we ran in the 21st. So the Sherlock Holmes thing is brand new. We do have excerpts from some of our classic interview people like Frank Miller and Matt Groening and Drew Struzan. And so I wanted to make, it was very hard. It was very hard to boil down 30 years of our history into 224 pages, and I could have very easily have done something that would be completely different. They would have a completely different set of features. But we wanted to reflect 30 years of the industry as well as 30 years of us. Yeah, which has been tricky, but I think we found the right balance. I hope.
Well, Shelley, understandably, has some vested interest in one of your articles and is asking who was interviewed about the death of Vertigo.
Okay, well, we interviewed a lot of creators. We didn't talk to that many editors. We talked to former editors. We talked to Tom Peyer. We talked to Stuart Moore. Who else we talked to? Jamie Delano. We talked to a real range of people about Vertigo because we miss Vertigo. It was a great imprint. There were, to be honest, when we started in 1992, we actually launched the magazine on the weekend of the launch of Vertigo in the UK at a restaurant in Covent Garden, which had Pete Milligan, Karen Berger, Tom Peyer. It was amazing. It was, so in a way, kind of our birth almost matched Vertigo's. We kind of had a parallel, and for the first few years we covered a lot of Vertigo stuff. We had covers from Frank Quitely, covers from Sean Phillips. We covered Vertigo and pretty much no one else would, because we felt an affinity. The thing about Vertigo, which I thought was the most interesting thing, was that for the first time you'd have people writing American comics who lived in places like Muswell Hill, who were like 15 minutes from home. It felt really odd. Really refreshing. But it's you thought that in the American comics for loads of people who lived in New York or Las Vegas or Los Angeles, who lived thousands of miles from us. But the idea of a comic writer who lived in North London, writing American comics, as a 19-year-old, it was amazing. It really opened my eyes.
Careful, mate. You're very close to showing your age here, mate. Just
people can work out my age, I think, probably.
Yeah,
from
absolutely. And also,
things. No, I'm very proud of it. It's a book we're really proud of, which we hope. The campaign's been going very, very well. We're very, very pleased with it. We still got a month left. As well as the book, I want to say very quickly. Also, we got a Society of Illustrators event happening on the 8th of October, which I'd like to plug, if I may.
Make it bloody quick. Go.
All right. Basically, we've got Bill Sienkiewicz, Frank Miller, David Mack talking at the Society of Illustrators on the evening of the 8th of October, talking about 30 years of Tripwire and 30 years of comics. So we've got that. And also I wanted to shoehorn in two very other quick plugs. There's a Gosh signing on the 22nd of October with Simon Davis, Roger Langbridge, Fraser Irving and Dan Schaffer. And we're going to be at MCM at Artist Alley as well on the 28th. So as you see, I've done this before, so I can do it very quickly. So any London or UK-based people are welcome to come along to those two events. Anyone in New York who's there for New York Comic Con and they fancy an evening with three phenomenal creators, tickets are $15 is ridiculously cheap. And you get to see, some of the most amazing people, just talk for 2 hours at least.
Cool. And we'll quickly cover these two elements as well. Number one, which is an important one, considering that you did rattle off a whole bunch of names then, but I only noticed one of, females, at which point Shelley is asking any female journalists, female contributors to the book. If you can,
we have covered. We have covered, like, for example, we've done kind of 30 most important independent comic creators. And we have shone the light on people like Posey Simmons, Oh God, Alison Bechdel will have to forgive me. Bechdel actually appears twice because we in the 30 greatest graphic novels you should read. We've got Alison Bechdel. We've got Kate Charlesworth's book about kind of gay and lesbian. Basically, it's like the UK gay and lesbian scene. A book called what's it called? Forgive me, it's been a long day, but it's a great book. So we have covered that. Yes, I mean, we've tried to to do our best to cover a wide cross range, a cross section of people in the book.
Fair enough.
And of course, Shelley does get mentioned. There's a photo of Shelley in the Vertigo piece, so that
Excellent.
she is spotlighted in there. She is mentioned.
Cool.
So we definitely.
Excellent. And last but not least, just to before you do disappear, because I know that you have to head off to a screening, so we are going to quickly cover this.
It's a gig, but yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. It's Tripwire Awards 2022 time as well. That's coming up to its final week of voting. So we've got ourselves Shelley mentioned in this as well. Because the awards are available and open for anyone to vote. And if you are a lover of comics, they are available. If you head to the conventioncollective.com, if you go to Tripwire Magazine, we've got the links up there for you as well. And basically, it's a full roster of some of the best creators of the last 12 months. And I will say, certainly in best writer, best artist, and I believe best colorist as well. It's staggeringly close.
It's incredibly tight. So anybody could win this of the five now. To be honest, it's so open that basically if people vote now, then that they could certainly change the results over the next few days. That's what I like about it, is it's a completely open race.
Yeah. So these are up and running now as well. So if you want to quickly mention about this, so Tripwire Awards is available. We're going to be hopefully joining in with the live stream when they do the presentation of the awards. I'm actually sponsoring two categories, which I'm very proud to be doing. I am sponsoring best convention and also best new creative talent. So that's something I'm very proud of and very happy that I'm involved in. But yes, where is she? She is in there. We have ourselves
in the running, and it's all open. It's each category is pretty open, and if people want to vote, things can change. Last year, I think it changed like the day before we announced that they closed. The best digital strip is switched from one to another, so it literally it can swing on a day.
Absolutely. But Shelley's in there. She's nominated for a Roll of Honor award, and it's very much a hell of a selection of incredible talent that's represented.
Yeah, we've tried to make it a good broad range of people from different disciplines. Roll of Honor, we've got some really cool people. Sadly, some people we lost over the last year. I mean, it's been an awful year for losses. Yeah,
excellent stuff indeed. So there you go. Do check out that, but certainly the thing that I want to that Joel came on and specifically wanted to talk about is the Tripwire 30. If you head to Zoop and search Tripwire 30, that book is up and running at the moment. The campaign's going fantastically well, and congratulations to all the efforts on that. It is supported, so it is going to be produced. 33 days left on that 30th anniversary, a 224-page limited hardcover book, and that is up and running. So there you go. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Joel.
And it's always my pleasure. Thank you. Say goodbye to the man in black. It was a bit like me the other time. Remember when I was in the dark lighting? Do you remember? Like I was on the run from the FBI. I think it was about 6 months ago.
Indeed. Well, they didn't catch you, so I mean, you're here.
They're not yet.
Yeah.
Well, I felt someone at my door. I'm not sure who that is. I can hear a big.
Fair enough. In that case, take care. Look after yourself. Enjoy your gig. Yeah.
Leonard, thanks. Take care. Thanks for having me on as ever. Take care.
No worries. So there we go. Thank you very much indeed for Joel. Check out the Zoop campaign. Check out tripwiremagazine.co.uk, and of course the Tripwire Awards. Final week of voting up for grabs for that, and we'll be giving more information about when you can watch the live stream on a future episode of this show. So it's all about you, Jon, now. Okay, we're not talking about anybody else. It's all you.
Well, I hope I deliver the goods today.
Hey, listen, I'm certain that you will. I know that you're man in black at this point, so we'll kind of we'll work from that. No, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And certainly the reason why I wanted to have you on is because I feel that you have a real interesting perspective, not only as a San Diegan who obviously saw both sides of how the return of San Diego Comic-Con back to the city in July, but also just the landscape of comics at the moment, and certainly approaching comic conventions post-COVID. Because you are somebody that is not only a fervent supporter of the community, but you also support original art as well. And it's the reason why I wanted Josh on as well, because you both a real supporter of the creatives that attend these shows. I mean, if we could talk about your con experience, and certainly when it comes to San Diego Comic-Con, what is your relationship to the con as a local, as somebody who kind of sees this circus rock up each and every year?
Well, I have a rather unique perspective because I've been to it as a fan, but I also have been there as a worker because I set it up every year. I've never tabled at Comic-Con. Last I checked, there's like a 15-year waiting list. It's literally somebody either has to retire or die, and you can finally get a table there. It's nuts. So I gave up hope of ever having a table there, and plus, Artist Alley just shrinks every single year. This was the smallest I've ever seen it.
Really? Because I mean, as someone who went there this year, because you had that 2-year gap, and you had people that weren't attending because of fears for COVID, anxiety of returning back to the convention, it felt for me that the Artist Alley had actually grown a little bit, and the illustrators were starting to kind of eke into a little bit further down into the room. You didn't feel that this time round?
No, especially because that giant Funko booth definitely cut in,
squeezed in from the top corner.
And I will say that booth was amazing. I was blown away by it, because when I heard about it, I thought it was an offsite because that's the way all the pictures were. And then I go in there and see it. I'm like, oh my God, how the hell did they pull this off? Because you got to understand, it's weird. When you see the convention center just bare, nothing in it at all, it looks cavernous, but it doesn't look that big. And yet when you put stuff in there and you put these booths and whatnot, it suddenly just looks like, Xanadu, man. It's amazing. It's huge.
Yeah.
But Artist Alley, I've been to every Comic-Con since 2004 on. My first one ever was 2002. But from 2004 on, I've been to everyone. Artist Alley used to be twice the size that it is now, possibly even 3 times. I got to admit, but the first 3 cons I went to, I only went for like a day, so it was kind of hard to remember exactly how big everything was.
Yeah. I think also, I mean, you were talking about the struggles of actually getting a table this time round. Or just generally in San Diego Comic-Con. But we did have a unique perspective in 2022 because they didn't sell any additional badges. So it was people that were rolling on from 2020. You obviously had a little bit of a cut from people that weren't wanting to make that risk. So you had a little bit of a reduced audience. So that kind of freed up a little bit of the energy in the room and just kind of just pulled it back a little bit. And also with certain exhibitors, artists that weren't wanting to make that commitment for a return in 2022, it opened up the opportunities for new names, new faces. There were a bunch that were new tabling this time round. There was a little bit of a sense of a refreshment of energy in the room for myself. You saying you didn't feel that, or I mean, what was your take on any of those new faces that were able to make it onto the behind the tables?
I would say there was definitely a newer energy. It felt kind of subdued in some ways, because I think people were still scared, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
As somebody who lives in San Diego, though, and reads the papers still, believe it or not, we still have a newspaper out here, and looked at the numbers, we had fewer than 3 dozen COVID cases traced back to Comic-Con, which, there wasn't a single one traced back to the November show we did, but still, considering all things considered, less than 3 dozen is not bad.
Yeah.
So I will consider that a win on any regard. I don't even think WonderCon had any cases traced back to it. So
yeah.
Let's keep our heads up and look at the positives. Maybe that means we are finally getting a grip on this thing. But I will say,
only hope. I mean, it did feel that when I was reading about any cases that were happening, it didn't feel that they were being traced back to the show. it was being traced back to BarCon or any kind of meetups that were happening. And they seem to be concentrated around certain meetups that had happened over the course of the weekend.
Well, eight of the cases, actually, somebody walked in not knowing that they had it. So they had it before Comic-Con. You can't really count that.
No, not really. You've got a couple of comments coming in. So let's do a Smeg. This year seemed like SDCC light. I get it. Creators and exhibitors have to make the COVID risk versus reward decision. So hopefully it's better next year. And for love of God, bring back the carpet next year. Absolutely.
I wholeheartedly agree. The thing about the carpet, and here's a little backstage info that a lot of people don't know. It's all about money, obviously, and Comic-Con didn't get to make a whole lot of it these last couple of years. But anybody who's been in recent years probably noticed that there aren't too many homeless people running around downtown San Diego during Comic-Con, and there were a few this year though. And the thing is, once again, this is a trade secret here. They go out and pay the homeless people to disappear for the week. They give them each like $200 and are like, here you go. Stay out of downtown for the week. Monday after Comic-Con, all bets are off. And for the most part, they do. So, they go out of their way to make sure that San Diego is presentable during Comic-Con. It might seem harsh, but hey, $200 is nothing to sneeze at in this day and age.
Tell me about it. You've also got Toby as well. Should see the Comic-Con or the convention center during the auto show. Makes the convention center a lot bigger than it is. There was one that I paid attention to recently, which was the fully charged one. That obviously the guy behind Crichton of Red Dwarf, Robert Llewellyn, he's behind the fully charged effort. And they did a show inside the convention center. Looking at pictures of that, it seems like this cavernous space. We as San Diego Comic-Con attendees, we fill that place like air in a vacuum. It's something very specific. I want to talk to you about the creators and those that we get to see at shows like San Diego Comic-Con, because it isn't just San Diego. We're also talking about other conventions as well that you're able to go and visit. I'm talking about those legacy creators and those that are creating original art for us. Do you think that we've kind of really taken it a little bit for granted for the ability to see original artists and have art created for us there and then in front of our very eyes at a Comic-Con? And 2022 kind of reiterated how much we have to treasure those creators when we get the chance to see them at all.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the best moments I ever had at Comic-Con, two of them actually, in the same year, no less, I met Stan Winston and Ray Harryhausen. Ray Harryhausen's the father of special effects. I guess Willis O'Brien would be considered the father of modern special effects, but Ray Harryhausen perfected them. Stan Winston obviously took it to a whole nother level. And, not even a year later, Stan Winston's gone and didn't even stick. And then Ray Harryhausen, he kicked on for like another 6 or 7 years before he passed away. But, with Harryhausen, it was kind of one of those, he lived a great long life and look at all that he accomplished. Stan Winston was still in his prime and he's just gone all of a sudden. And I was like, my God, I'm so thankful that I got to meet him while I had this chance and I got to talk with him. And he helped us pull a prank on our friend even, just how many people do that for somebody they don't know?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think the one that kind of really ramped it all home for me is the first San Diego Comic-Con I went to, 2010. I was able to attend it was a retrospective on Watchmen. So we're talking the legacy of the book. So we had Dave Gibbons on stage, we had Len Wein on stage, and then only a matter of years later, Len passed away, and next thing you know, I'm attending a tribute panel for him. And then we've had losses like Stan Lee, George Perez. We've had these incredible legacy creators that unfortunately have left us. But now the question becomes about this period of time with post-pandemic, when legacy creators are feeling that they are not feeling safe about joining us at conventions. Where do you feel that Comic-Cons are in the place of legacy creators and helping them still reach out to fans. Do you feel that we've reached a period of time where legacy creators will not be joining us at shows anymore?
You know, I think age might play a role in that too. Obviously, you know, in addition to a pandemic, if it's just that difficult to travel, even without the risk of illness, you know, it may not be worth it for them. I mean, Stan Lee, I ran into him a couple of times at Comic-Con. He was, for years, you know, you'd see him walking around with his entourage, and then as time passed, he slowly started having a cane, then a walker, then a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I know the feeling, because I've been without the use of my leg before. It sucks, and it's like you want to go up there, but you just know that your body can't handle it anymore. You know, it's not all. It's just, I don't know. It's something I'm not looking forward to someday eventually, but it's just, you try to make the best of it as you can. You try to cherish the fact that they can, if they still have that kind of energy to go, God bless them.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a number of creators over the years and people that I've felt that I want to go and see. I mean, like Stanley is one. There was also Carrie Fisher was another, and it's one of those things where you just go and you see them at the shows, and you see them on a regular basis, and you go, and it's okay. I'll catch them next time. I'll see them at the next show. I'll see them in the next show. It'll be fine.
You know, that happened with my friend Batten Lash, who, you know, one of the real pioneers of web comics, and the man who made Archie Meets the Punisher. On paper, that is the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard, but he was the only cartoonist on the planet that could have made that work. And I met him at a street fair. We had a mutual friend, and he became a very good friend of mine and a mentor. And I had no idea that he was sick. And then I read about it in the papers, but it said that he was in remission. And I was chatting with him at his booth. This was back in 2018. And I didn't want to bring anything up with him. It was probably the last thing he wanted to talk about. And we just, about an hour we talked, because I would always visit him on the last day of the show. His booth was right across from DC. And I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that he knew every cartoonist there was in the world. Like, the man was friends with everybody. He'd always have a big group of people around his table and whatnot. And Sunday would usually be the one day that he was kind of on his own and just enjoy himself. And I went and talked, and we talked for the longest time, you know, and I was like, well, I'll catch you at Comic Fest, you know, because I asked him if he was going to go to Long Beach Con, which was about a month and a half later. And he went, no, I'm going to go to Portland for their Comic Con. I went, oh, well, I'll catch you at Comic Fest, because he was a big part of that show too. And I'll never forget, he had found out through the grapevine that my father had passed away, and he made it a point to come up to my table and talk to me about it and offer his condolences. So that just goes to show you how good of a friend Batten was. But, you know, and then I was at Long Beach Comic Con, and he was interviewed for a documentary about monster movies. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. You know, I can't wait to tell Batten that I saw it. And then, you know, next thing I know, he's trending on Twitter, and he had an account, but he was never active on it.
No.
Just like red flag number one. Oh God, no. And turned out to be true, unfortunately.
Yeah. I made it a point when I saw Jackie at San Diego this time around. Number one.
You froze, bud.
Hello.
Everything froze.
Yeah, I may have broke up there. Sorry about
that. You froze again. Am I still coming through? Oh boy, we seem to have lost contact here. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear us. Hopefully you can see us. Sorry about that. A little bit of a tech drop off. I do apologize. Are you still there, John?
Yes, I am here.
Excellent. Yeah. And what I wanted to do was I definitely wanted to mention to talk to Jackie and wish her all the best when it came to the loss of Batten. We've got a couple of comments. I think creators are treasured more because of the COVID shutdown. I mean, they really were. There was an outpouring support to all creators especially smaller creators. This is Solicitor's Meg. Into the Blue Mister. People like Stan Sakai and Sergio Aragons will not be around forever. Cherish them while you can. So yeah,
I would
absolutely.
definitely agree on that one. So I've met both Stan and Sergio, both upstanding individuals, and Stan Sakai especially. He'll give you any advice that they ask for. He's just a really nice guy. And Sergio,
well, I mean, let's talk about that then, because I still think that a lot of people see Artist Alley as a little bit of a mystery. It's very difficult, say, for somebody who's attending San Diego Comic-Con or any Comic-Con for the first time to actually break that kind of barrier to go up and speak to a creator, especially if, say, for example, they're not wanting to buy any art, or they feel a little bit uncomfortable about what to say and how to approach an artist. As somebody who has tabled at shows, and you have people who are passing and looking at your table, how do you feel, number one, for attendees, how they can break that ice and kind of step up, and also just those people behind the table, how they can be a little bit more approachable to those that are just coming up to the table?
As a fan, I know the feeling. You're scared crapless to go talk to somebody, but sometimes you just got to get brave. There have been times. I mean, I walked up to Scott Shaw, and I was definitely, terrified beyond belief, because I heard that he doesn't hold back.
No,
and you could see how nervous I was, and he's like, and he looked through it, and he looked through my little portfolio, and he's like, "Are you ready?" And I went, "Hold on." I'm like, and I said to myself, even, I'm like, well, if, there are going to be worse guys than him. If he rips into you, if you're going to be a professional, you got to take it. And I just went, all right, let me have it. And he went, well, the only thing I would have told you was to work on continuity, but it looks like you figured that out yourself. So just keep going the way you're going. And I feel like the luckiest guy on earth that I didn't get ripped a new one by Scott Shaw. But, as a fan, you just got to get brave. I know it's hard, but you just got to get brave. And as a creator, and I hope you don't hear my dog howling in the background.
That's fine.
I swear, between him and my cat and the neighborhood strays, they all seem to have a running bet on which one can drive me craziest the quickest. But as a creator, you also gotta be approachable, because some are pretty grumpy, and I can get that too. You're sitting behind a table all day. You don't always get to have a bathroom break. Sometimes you're a moron like me, and you don't bring any food or snacks to eat, or you bring the wrong kind of snacks to eat all day. Some people are working on artwork that they've been commissioned on, and I don't know. You have to at least look approachable. You can't have a scowl. You can't be grumpy. You gotta also look approachable. It's a two-way street.
Sure. I mean, for myself, I think the ones that stand out for me, Neil Adams, which was one of the first cons I ever went to, going up to his table, and same drill. I was absolutely scared shitless. But he just went, all right, just cool your jets. Here we go. Let's just take some time. You okay? You all right? Ask me some questions. And he just sort of like calmed me down, and just sort of like we got into it. And he kind of gave me that little bit of advice to just kind of they didn't just show up to kind of sit behind a table. They were there. They're there to meet people. So no, he kind of just reminded me about that. He was very, very kind and generous in that regard. Then you have on the other side, you have Tim Sale, who admittedly he did not suffer fools. So he was that kind of guy that he wanted to speak to you as well, but if it was just going to be a banal conversation, then he said, okay, I've been here all weekend. Do you want to actually have a conversation with me, or what? So no, that was an interesting moment as well. You've got Into the Blue Mister. I think the only artist I've ever been intimidated to meet was Howard Shakin. Somebody else that doesn't hold back when it comes to how he talks to people. Solicitor Smeg as well. Just be nice and polite, and it'll be fine. And for the love of God, don't try and haggle. It's a convention, not a flea market. Yeah, good advice. Yeah, and Chuck Cook as well. Profoundly grateful to have met Carrie Fisher at Star Wars Celebration before we lost her. She was a gem. That was the last. Yeah, that was the last time I saw her. And again, I just thought I'll just see her at the next con, and then we just never did. That's a shame.
Yeah, I never got to meet Miss Fisher. I did literally bump into Kenny Baker one time, and that's kind of a funny story. This was Comic-Con 2004, and it's the Star Wars booth. My brother helped build the X-wing prop for that. So he told me before I went there, he's like, "Hey, you better go check out that damn X-wing. I broke several knuckles building that." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll go check it out." And I was 20 years old at the time, but I'm like dawdling around like a friggin' 5-year-old. I swear to God, I'm the most clumsy person on the planet. But I make Mr. Bean look normal by comparison. But anyway, so I'm walking around and I'm just like not paying attention to anything. My eyes are up in the air looking at all the stuff that they have hung up, and something bounces off my knee. And I just hear this really loud shrill, "Watch it." And I look around, I'm like, "Who the hell said that?" And he went, "Down here." And I look down, it's Kenny Baker, and he's on the floor, and I'm just like, "Oh my God, I knocked over R2-D2. And I'm helping him up, I'm dusting him off. I'm like almost in tears. I'm like, "How could I be such a clumsy oaf?" And he puts his hand on my shoulder and goes, "You need to quit being so tall." And he goes and just walks away whistling. He's totally messing with me. And I was just like, I just got punked by R2-D2.
Nice. I was going to ask any other stories that kind of step out. Certainly, you kind of mentioned about those that have given you advice and given you help down the line. Certainly, more recently, what would you say has been some of those memories of certainly the more recent conventions? Now that people are coming back after that 2-year break, those that have been very grateful to come back, and those that are really getting back into the convention spirit of the whole thing. Any kind of interactions that stand in your mind? Those that are just really grateful to be back.
It was weird, especially WonderCon. There was definitely that sense of we're home, we're back. We're celebrating, that sort of deal. At Comic-Con, it was almost as if no time had passed. It was like, "Hey, everybody, it's been a while." It felt like old times. Granted, there were some booths missing, but still, it still felt great. It felt like I was seeing relatives that were coming to visit. Like it hadn't
Great
been.
way to put it.
So even though it was 3 years in between, it felt like just a year. Like everything slipped right back into normal.
I mean, also just as somebody who had not been into San Diego for a while, it was just great to see the way that the city had grown, had evolved and changed. Like you say, there was while in the convention center, some exhibitors weren't joining us, but also just out in the city itself, there were some businesses that had gone past the wayside, but we also had new businesses taking up some of that space, and it felt like the city was letting out a really big sigh and a real big breath of fresh air.
Well, Comic-Con makes us a lot of money. Not just the hotels and the convention center, all the restaurants and shops around there benefit. It helps a lot. And to have that back and to have lost that for 2 years, I mean, that's the biggest reason why there wasn't any carpet on the floors. There was only so much in the budget. That's the reason why we didn't get a program book.
Let's talk about that then, about trying to help San Diego and San Diego Comic-Con. It's not, I mean, I put forward that perhaps they should have that show in November, the special edition, but then I believe it was the unofficial blog, I think it was Kelly, who turned around and said, well, then it wouldn't be special. It wouldn't be a special edition. But I thought that perhaps it would be a great way for that momentum to keep going throughout the year, and for San Diego to perhaps get some revenue back in the coffers, because the bigger the war chest, the better the show that they put on. What do you feel about having a November show and keeping that energy going at the back end of a year?
It's been discussed. The problem with the November show was scheduling. San Diego, it's a tourist spot. We don't get any cold weather until we have cold nights. Our cold days don't start until mid-December. And even then, it's like rarely ever higher than 55. It's usually pretty, sweater weather, that sort of deal. And November, sometimes the convention center's booked solid. Last year certainly was. That was the Thanksgiving weekend was the only date that they could actually get it. And that that was going to be a hard sell even without a pandemic, because there's a million things going on that weekend. I was kind of the, because I saw a lot of people online going, this is the time to get back with our families. And I'm like, damn well come Friday morning, you're going to be sitting on your ass, tired of your family already. And by Saturday, all the good leftovers are gone. So seriously, what's wrong about going to a comic book convention? But I think the special edition that they did, it wasn't so much, it wasn't as attended as they were hoping. They were hoping for about 35,000 to 40,000. I think 25,000 was about as high as it got. But I think more importantly, they weren't really trying to fill their coffers so much as they were trying to see if they could safely hold a large event during the pandemic. And they were, because no cases were traced back, and that was at a time when Omicron was definitely in San Diego. We were able, they gave them the confidence to do WonderCon. It gave them the confidence to do regular Comic-Con. So I would love to see them do a November show, because that would be great. It's just or a fall show. It all matters on timing more than anything else. It's just that kind of a deal. And if they could pull off something maybe a little more closer to earlier mid-November, I think they might be willing to do that. It's just, timing is everything, as they say. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, it's something that I'd be pushing forward for, but it's just a case of oh well, if we have to wait till July, I'm okay with that. We're showing your artwork, or sending you your page on the screen at the moment. Jon's crazystuff.blogspot.com. Is that the best place for people to find you? By the way,
that's my usual blog. I do post there every week, and I see you guys have gone really deep into the well here. I think this is like from 2011, possibly 12.
Ah, right. Okay. This is this is Jon's great. Well, I tell you what, let's get rid of that.
But you know what? All my links are there. The Bubble Fox website is actually the best one, because that's the most current, and that's actually in guest month right now, and that's my most recent post.
There we go.
The blog, Bubble Fox is mostly just comics. I do post a little bit here, as far as author comments, that sort of deal. But it's mostly, the blog is where I'll go a little bit more in depth about some of my musings and whatnot. Not to mention, I usually do a killer couple of months of Comic-Con posts. You've seen some of those, so
yeah, absolutely. It's the reason why I think we've communicated in the past. It's something that you've definitely gone forward. You've got Shelley Bond, who's saying Jon is a killer guest. So there you go. You've got a fan in comics legend there. You've got somebody who's very much a supporter there, right, with what you've been saying. Jon's crazystuff.blogspot.com if anyone wants to check your stuff out. Where else can people find you? Where else can keep track on what you're up to?
Besides the blog and the site, I pretty much just do Twitter. I don't have time for every single social media thing. Like I said earlier, there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to let you get off. I'm going to let you get off and enjoy the rest of your Sunday then, because we're at the hour point, and I think we'll let you get off. But no, listen, Jon, thank you so much indeed for coming on and sharing your stories. You've got Into the Blue Mister. Jon's got a great voice. I could listen to his stories all day. And I'd love to hear some more of those. I'd love to get you back on at some point.
Well, do we have time for just one little story?
Of course, go for it.
Okay.
Always.
So I've told you some stuff about being an attendee, but I guess I haven't said anything about actually building the booths. So I'll try and make this quick. Usually, for a long time, I had a pretty good deal setting up the Hasbro booth, all their video and lighting. And back in 2018, we're setting it up, and we had just finished. And one of the Hasbro executives, usually they're not there, or at least they don't show up until the actual show. They don't go there during the load-in. But one of their executives comes up and says, hey, I know you guys are about to finish, but would you be willing to stay for another hour, possibly two? We ordered another monitor and a dual post with 2 monitors on it. And we're like, yeah, sure. It's no big deal. So we have to wait for the deco guys. They're the people who do the carpet. We have to wait for them to cut a hole in it so that the electricians can run a wire through it and all the cabling. And then we come in, we're IATSE. That little star symbol you see at the end of movies, that's us. So we're waiting to do our part, and we get everything hooked up. We get everything put in there. And this same guy comes in and he has a cardboard cutout under each arm. One is of the white Power Ranger, one is of the green Power Ranger. And also making this more peculiar, usually at a booth, the monitors either face east or west or north or south. This guy had us put it at an angle, and it was angled towards the Bandai booth. And, we're like, oh, that's kind of odd, but whatever. But then he comes in with these cardboard cutouts of the Power Rangers, and I was a 90s kid. So I know what's going on. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Like, that's Bandai's property. And they went, if we let you guys in on something, can you promise not to say anything until after Thursday morning? Yeah, sure. They didn't make us sign anything. It was an honor code deal. And the guy goes, okay, as of last night, we own Power Rangers. We bought the entire Saban library. We're unveiling it Thursday morning. And sure enough, at preview night, there's the monitor I set up, but there's a giant cloth draped over it. And, waiting. And then the next day, they pulled it off, and you could see a lot of sad faces over at the Bandai booth. And when I was a young kid, first starting out in the local as a stagehand, and one of the older guys told me that, these trade shows, all they really are just one giant pissing contest. It's literally a bunch of millionaires and billionaires figuratively whipping it out to see who's his biggest by outspending the others. And I never really understood that until I got more into actually building the booths. And I was like, good God, this really is like a bunch of billionaires, just having a pissing contest. And that example right there with the Power Rangers and Hasbro was probably one of the most petty things I've ever witnessed. and here's how it ties into this year. So you probably noticed Hasbro only had one booth this year.
Yep.
But who took over their old space? Bandai. And boy, did they blow that thing up. I have never seen a booth like that at Comic-Con before, as far as all the video walls and everything. My friend John Chu, he was the video engineer for that booth, and he said that it took them 27 hours in total just to get everything programmed, because almost every wall had their own spot. Like they didn't just run continuous video. Everyone had its own deal. And wow. Video walls, they're not particularly difficult to set up, but they can have syncing issues. And that one, I can believe it that it took 27 hours to get all of those to work.
Great. I think it was the first year I got, because I had I was volunteer staff upstairs in room 2, so I'd gotten myself it said volunteer staff on it, at which point I managed to swing into the floor on the Wednesday. I wasn't supposed to be there, but they saw the word staff and somebody just let me in. So I was seeing the booths being constructed and the way that the floor was being put together, and you could just see that there was this real kind of spitting daggers across the booths of stuff as everyone's just kind of angling see what everyone else is doing. So no, I totally get what you're saying when it comes to that kind of.
Well, yeah. Well, it's like when people were freaking out that Disney was going to, stymie Comic-Con with their own D23 Expo. And I'm like, no, that'll never be the case, because not as many people go to D23, and all of Disney's mortal enemies are at Comic-Con. It's what we in South San Diego call fronting. It's all,
yeah.
It's posturing. It's people trying to show who is his biggest. That's all there is to it.
It's a very, very good point. Very, very good point indeed. Excellent stuff. Great story. Thank you so much indeed for that. That was cool to wrap up on. Brilliant stuff. Jon, thank you so much indeed for coming on to the show today. I would love to get you back at some point and continue talking with us. Perhaps even as we get closer to July 2023. It'd be great to have you back. That'd be good to have that. But there you go. It's Jon's crazy stuff. .blogspot.com if you want to find out more. And of course, if you want to check out his Twitter as well, it is Jon's Crazy Tweet. Jon, thank you so much indeed for coming on, man.
Well, thank you for having me. Just I'll hit you up on Twitter next time I got a good story.
Absolutely, and hopefully next time we'll get the camera working as well, so we can see into your the eyes of your soul, mate.
Yeah, I don't. My phone's like way up. My phone's more up to date than my laptop is. I don't know why the camera ain't working, but hey, at least you heard me.
Well, you see, this is because what you've done is you put tape over it and you haven't taken the tape off the camera. It's all about staying safe in 2022. That's what it's all about, because they're always watching. They're always watching. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was good to be here, and I hope to hear from you soon.
You too. John, take care. Thank you so much indeed.
All right. Adios.
Take care. Excellent stuff indeed. There you go. Check out his stuff at Jon Espanza at John's Crazy Tweets, and of course John's Crazy Stuff.blogspot.com. Plenty of stuff that I can certainly, he's got more stories to tell us as well. That was excellent. Chuck Cook, that was my section of the floor this year. Yes, of course, Chuck was one of the floor managers at SDCC this year. The Hasbro booth was specifically my corner of Hall D. Bandai was spectacular, although their line management was a bit of a trash fire at first. Yeah, they didn't exactly. They gave you plenty of headaches, didn't they? Yes, I remember that, and you shaking your head at various points throughout the course of the weekend. Excellent stuff. So thank you very much indeed to Joel for joining us. Thank you very much indeed to John for coming on as well. Hopefully, those that have joined us to talk and to listen to Josh Cruz, hopefully we're going to get him on a show, especially when it comes to his relationship with artists and Artist Alley, because he is somebody who voraciously goes through original art. He's a great collector of original art at comic conventions. I'm sure he's got plenty of stories. Down the line, hopefully we'll get the chance to speak to him as well. Thank you. We have Shelley, who's asked, how can people in their pajamas right now support your amazing show, Leonard? Well, thank you so much indeed for the kind words, Shelley. Well, it's very simple. The best way to support us is just keep watching. You can like, subscribe, hit notifications on the bell icon. If you are watching on YouTube, get yourself down there, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and hit all. You'll see when we go live, especially when it comes to any incidental episodes that we've got coming up. So anything that we're not running on a Sunday at 6. But of course, you can jump on our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Englishman SDCC for all of our updates if you want to follow along on that. Leanne D, talking about the box that we sent her from San Diego Comic-Con. So many awesome things in my box. The Dune coins, all the awesome pins and the cutest little mini lunchbox, the buttons, House of Dragons bag, an SCS Power Star paperweight, lots of cool stuff. It was a pleasure putting that together for you, Leanne, and any way that we can support anybody, that's the way that we'll gladly help, especially if you weren't attending Comic-Con this year. That's our show for today. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Next week, we do have a couple of guests that I'm hoping that we're going to try and get on. I want to try and get Christina from New York Comic-Con, hopefully on in the next week or so. She's still being a little bit apprehensive about coming on, but hopefully we'll try and get you on, try and get her on and try and get her coming onto the show. But if you have any guests that you would like to see on a Talkin Con in coming up, please do tweet them on Twitter or social media, Facebook, wherever. Spread the word. Let everyone know that we are live each and every Sunday at 6 p.m. here in the UK. Maybe someone on Facebook that you follow that you feel would be great to have on as a guest. Let them know, because obviously we want to spread the word. And also spread the word with other people as well. Let them know that we are here each and every Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it. Back again next week for another Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. Speaking of which, this is empty, so I'm now going to bugger off and refill it and wrap up my Sunday. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your the weekend. And yeah, we'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.